Governor Siminalayi Fubara apologizes to the people of River State for what he calls regrettable anxiety in the aftermath of the political crisis that rocks the state this week. Over 20 bodies recovered following the boat mishap that occurred in Karim Lamido local government area of Taraba State as government bans night journeys on its waterways. And it's tough roads to ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war as Arab nations demand immediate halts to conflict, but U.S. warns that it would help Hamas to regroup.
And on Business News tonight, the local equities market closes the first week of November in the green, up 4.56%, maintaining the 70K level for the all-share index.
And on sports news tonight, Newcastle United ends Arsenal's unbeaten start to the Premier League season as VAR controversially allowed Anthony Gordon's goal to stand in the Magpies' victory.
Security, wealth creation and community development. These are some of the key dividends which the governorship candidate of the Action Alliance, Mr. Olayinka Brimo, is promising to bring to the people of Kogi State. Mr. Brimo, who took his campaign to Okene, Lokoja and Kotonkarfe ahead of the elections on November the 11th, sought the support of the people and urged them to shun vote selling. Instead, he asked them to vote a candidate that will develop the communities and create wealth.
11-11. Party. Date. 11-11.
The governorship candidate of the Action Alliance, Mr. Olayinka Brimo, takes his campaign to the grassroots in this community in Kotonkarfe. The candidate decries the lack of development in the state and urges the residents to vote for him in the November 11th governorship election.
For 27 years, just look around. Look at the kind of drainage you have. Where are the roads within here? In 27 years. Is it not time? Is it not high time we started thinking differently?
Yes, sir.
As to our choices when it comes to leadership of the state, as to our choices that we make, the choices that will help in developing our communities.
The AA candidate also urges the people not to sell their votes on Saturday.
When they give us 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, how long will it take you to spend 5,000? And then you give up your right for 4 years. Is that a profitable business? Do you want to do an unprofitable business? Do you want to do an unprofitable business?
Next, the campaign train moves to Lokoja, the state capital, where a long convoy spreads his campaign message. Here, the governorship candidate received defectors from other political parties.
All through our campaign, it's been issue-based. Our start agenda, our wealth creation agenda, financial security and food security agenda, as means of driving in cash flow into our economy. We have been consistent with it. It is an assignment for us. It is not an ambition.
It was also a warm welcome in Okene as residents trooped out in a show of solidarity for the governorship candidate. It is exactly 1 week to the governorship election in Kogi State, and as campaigns gradually winds down, the candidate of the Action Alliance is confident of victory at the polls.
Well, staying in Kogi State, the governorship candidate of the African Democratic Congress, Mr. Leke Abijde, is asking residents to exercise their right to elect a governor that will attend to their needs. Addressing a campaign rally in Yagba East, Mr. Abijde expressed optimism that the election will be based on the one-man, one-vote principle. He also hopes that security agencies will remain neutral in order to allow for a free and fair poll.
It is the final campaign rally of local government areas in Kogi State as the African Democratic Congress governorship candidate takes his rescue message to the people of Yagba East. The ADC governorship candidate addresses his supporters in his local dialect to drive home his rescue mission message. It's few days to the election, and the ADC candidate is optimistic that the people's vote will count.
This is different from 2019. This is 2023. It is not going to be allowed for anybody to go into thuggery or using fake police, fake soldier, or even using the real soldier against the electorate. What is going to happen? One man, one vote. One woman, one vote. And the election, to me, is going to be very credible.
One after the other, chieftains of the party give reasons why Leke Abejide remains the best person to occupy Lord Lugard House.
All the functions that this local government are supposed to do, the state and the federal, he has taken them upon himself. Even this federal road, he has made intervention on several occasions. So I can bet you, putting him in Lugard House, and with what we have seen in our campaigns and the promises we've had, the interaction we have had, taking it to the people at the grassroots, selling our product that we have. My brother, Lugard House, you will be with us here to celebrate what we are talking about here.
Yagba people have declared support, full support for Leke Abejide because of what he has done to his people. He has done tremendously to ameliorate poverty. He has done tremendously to pull people out of the current situation. So the previous election is a litmus test that Yagba is always stand out. The previous election we did, there was no any violence because 90% of Yagba people are fully behind Honorable Leke Abejide.
There are a lot of things to be rescued because, number one, if you look at the local government is not functioning again. Nothing is working again in Kogi State. So there are so many things to be rescued. Like I used to tell my people, if someone should insult you, take it because we are on rescue mission. You must be focused on where you are going.
As the campaigns for who becomes the next governor of Kogi State winds down, the African Democratic Congress believes it has the best candidate to take the job in Kogi State.
Well, the countdown is also on in Imo State, where political leaders from Ohaji Egbema local government area say they are optimistic that the APC governorship candidate and the state governor, Hope Uzodimma, will be re-elected into office during the November 11 poll. At a campaign rally in Mao community, the people of the area also appealed to the governor to ensure the completion of the proposed $2 billion oil and gas free trade zone and industrial park in the area if he is re-elected.
It's a carnival of sorts as indigents of Ohaji Egbema local government area in Imo State gather at the council secretariat in Mmahu community for a solidarity rally for the state governor and APC governorship candidate Hope Uzodimma in the November 11 election. One after another, leaders give reasons why they believe Senator Uzodimma deserves a re-election.
This is a governor that have achieved more than other governors. This is a governor that have, in our zone, from oil and gas zone, Ohaji Egbema, this governor have done a lot for us. Hospitals, roads, network, infrastructure.
He has a lot for the state. And he has a lot to do for the people of Ohaji Egbema. This is the time we have to vote for him and bring him back. 4 + 4 8. We have to bring him back so that he will complete his project.
We have a digital hospital here in Ohaji Egbema, located at Umokandle. We have the Federal Polytechnic campus here in Egbema, and a lot of many more things.
Former Minister of State for Education and apex leader of Ohaji Egbema, Mr. Goodluck Opia, says irrespective of party affiliation, leaders in the area have resolved to support the re-election of Governor Uzodimma as they're optimistic of his victory.
I can assure you that this is a small crowd of what we expect to see in our respective various booths and wards in our local government voting for distinguished Senator Uzodimma, because we have absolute confidence in his leadership, we have total trust in his vision, and we are very happy with what he has done so far. for Imo people.
It's 1 week to the Imo State governorship election, and indigents of Ohaji Egbema are of the opinion that Governor Uzodimma has done well in the last 4 years, and they are determined to exercise their franchise for his re-election.
But to the courts now. The National Industrial Court sitting in Owerri, the Imo State capital, has issued a fresh interim injunction restraining the organized labor from embarking on any kind of strike in the state until further notice. The court also warned against disobedience of its order, saying it will attract consequences. Justice Nelson Ogwaya gave the order yesterday after hearing the submissions of the counsel to both parties that they were yet to reach a settlement on their dispute. The defendants are the Nigeria Labour Congress and its Secretary General, Comrade Emmanuel Ugwaja, and the Trade Union Congress and its Secretary General, Comrade Nuhu Toro. The court reserved ruling on the matter for November the 30th. President of the NLC was recently arrested and brutalized, allegedly by the police in Owerri, where he had gone to lead the Occupy Imo protest. And the Lagos Division of the Court of Appeal has upturned the verdict of the National Assembly Election Petitions Tribunal in Umuahia, which dismissed the election of the member representing Isikwato Imanochi Federal Constituency in Abia State, Mr. Amobi Oga. The lower court had nullified Mr. Oga's election and declared the candidate of the All Progressives Congress and the Minister of State for Labour, Mrs. Nkiru Konye-Jocha, as a winner. The tribunal voided Mr. Oga's election for non-compliance with the provisions of the 2022 Electoral Act. It said it had no evidence before it, given 21 days' notice to INEC by the respondent before conducting Labour Party's primary election. But the appeal court in its judgment upturned the tribunal's decision and reinstated the Labour Party's candidate. The higher court held that the appeal of the Labour Party candidate has merit and set aside the ruling of the National Assembly Election Petition Tribunal. Well, outside the courts now, the River State Governor, Siminalayi Fubara, has apologized to the people of River State for what he called regrettable anxiety following the political crisis that rocked the state earlier this week. While recalling the string of events from the fire at the State Assembly complex on Sunday night to the division in the House, the governor reiterated his commitment to restoring peace and stability in River State. Part of the governor's statement reads, "I am a man of peace, and as governor, the advancement of our state is my primary concern. Consequently, no sacrifice is too much for me to make to achieve this objective." The governor also said he and his predecessor, Mr. Nyesom Wike, the Minister of the FCT, share a collective responsibility to leverage on their positions and influences within and outside the states to advance the progress, security, and well-being of the people of Rivers State. He thanked President Bola Tinubu, as well as Rivers elders and his brother governors, for their intervention in resolving the crisis. In part two, after the break, we bring you an update on the outbreak of diphtheria in the country, with the disease claiming 500 lives, mostly children, between December 2022 and now. Well, that's in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television Lagos. Here's a reminder of our top stories. 7 days to the off-cycle governorship elections in the country, candidates consolidate on efforts to woo voters. Residents of Ohaji Egbema drum support for Governor Hope Uzodimma as AA and ADC candidates continue their tour of communities in Kogi State. Governor Siminalayi Fubara apologizes to the people of River State for what he calls regrettable anxiety in the aftermath of the political crisis that rocked the state this week. Over 20 bodies recovered following the boat mishap that occurred in Karim Lamido local government area of Taraba State as government bans night journeys on its waterways. And tough roads to ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. Arab nations demand immediate halt to conflict, but the U.S. warns that it will help Hamas to regroup. To health matters now. Over 500 Nigerians, mostly children, have lost their lives in the diphtheria outbreak in Nigeria, and that's since December 2022. There are over 10,000 confirmed cases of the disease, and the latest outbreak is far worse than the last one in 2011, when only 98 cases were reported. Kano State in northern Nigeria remains the epicenter, recording over 8,000 cases. Our correspondent, Victoria Longchan, gives a breakdown of the outbreak and efforts by the government to curb the spread.
Confirmed in December 2022 by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, the latest outbreak of the diphtheria disease has now become a national concern. Diphtheria is caused by a toxin produced by the bacteria Corynebacterium diphtheriae, and it's a vaccine-preventable disease. Despite the availability of the vaccine in the country, a large number of people have not taken this life-saving preparation. Records show that as of June 30, 2023, Nigeria recorded 798 confirmed diphtheria cases from 33 local government areas in 8 states, including the FCT. 80 deaths were also recorded. In July, the number increased to 836 cases confirmed in 8 states and 33 local government areas. The federal government then swung into action, announcing that 1,800 DTaP vaccines will arrive the country for children between the ages of 2 to 14 years on August 2 to increase the uptake of routine immunization.
1,800 vials of diphtheria antitoxin is expected to arrive in country on 2nd of August.
However, on September 14, the Minister of Health, Professor Ali Pate, inaugurated the National Diphtheria Rapid Response Team to examine response efforts since the upsurge of the outbreak. So what is the situation now? According to the National Center for Disease Control, presently there are 16,493 suspected cases, and the total number of confirmed cases stands at 10,322 from 130 local government areas in 20 states, including the FCT, and deaths recorded is 541. Children between the ages of 1 to 14 years recorded the highest number of diphtheria infections with 6,995 cases, which represents 71.7%. Kano State still remains the epicenter of the response, accounting for 8,445 cases, representing 81.8%.
We've activated about 14 labs across the state for effective diagnosis, and we're working currently with about 8 states to further optimize their labs to be able to diagnose diphtheria. This is to ensure prompt detection. And for the first time in the diphtheria outbreak also, the country has made available through the Redise funds the supply of that. That is the diphtheria antitoxin. That is a specific antitoxin for diphtheria treatment, and across the country, as well as the IV erythromycin. Every state reporting diphtheria as a treatment facility, as long as there is a teaching hospital or a secondary health facilities in that state, it's optimized to a treatment facility.
Proper hygiene practices and routine vaccination are crucial in preventing the spread of diphtheria.
For the campaign, we are really giving 2 different vaccine types. For younger children aged 6 to 4 years, we're giving the pentavalent vaccine to them. which protects against 5 illnesses. Diphtheria, of course, being one of them, but there's also tetanus, pertussis, there's Haemophilus influenza B, and there's hepatitis B virus that the pentavalent protects against. So for that one, across the 7 states, we have reached a total of 5.3 million, just over 5.3 million, 5,340,000 or thereabouts children.
Nigeria's diphtheria outbreak is not just a collection of statistics. It is a devastating crisis that has families mourning the loss of their loved ones and communities in despair. According to the World Health Organization, Nigeria must increase vaccinations to cover at least 80% of the population to prevent future diphtheria outbreaks. Victoria Longjan for Channels Television News.
And for more on this, we're joined on the news at 10 by the Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, Dr. Ifedayo Adetifa. He joins us virtually on the news at 10. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Adetifa.
Thank you for having me.
You know, one would naturally expect that we will get better at handling this, but it looks like we're regressing. Is there a simple answer as to why, instead of getting better at handling diphtheria, we seem to be regressing, judging by the number of deaths from this outbreak?
Thank you very much. I'm not sure I agree with you that we're regressing. The history of this outbreak is that the first few cases were reported in December last year, and a response was mounted both in terms of case management, surveillance, and even reactive vaccination. And we had an initial decline in the number of cases. What we then witnessed was a sort of a second wave from about June, with more states now reporting cases compared to the numbers that we were reporting before, and the numbers did go up. But also, we now have had a couple of weeks of an effective response, and what we are seeing in terms of the trend over the last now 3 to 4 weeks is a decline, a gradual decline in number of cases. We are keeping an eye on that, also to make sure that we investigate what is happening in silent local governments. That's places that are proximal to locations that have cases but are not reporting cases themselves. In addition, we still have rapid response teams out now in about 8 states, still supporting the response. And we are hoping that this, along with previous outbreak efforts at state level, vaccinations that have been going on, will lead to a steady or maintain the decline in the number of cases. But it's also important that I highlight the reason why we have this outbreak. This outbreak is not happening in a vacuum. What has happened is that historically, a significant proportion of children that were born every year and surviving up to this time did not receive their diphtheria-containing vaccine. So, for example, if you say 1,000 children were born in 2018, less than 10% of them, for purposes of illustration, received the diphtheria-containing vaccine. So what happens is, for every year you have poor vaccination coverage in a bat cohort, you contribute people that are susceptible to the disease that the vaccines are going to be meant to protect against. And when that number accumulates to a large pool, and the conditions are right for the introduction of the pathogen of interest, then you have an outbreak like we're seeing. So the situation is that we have got significant immunity gaps among people that are aged 5 to 14 years. And that is reflected in the age distribution of the cases that we're seeing now. These are people who missed on the opportunity of being vaccinated anything from 5 to 14 years ago. So a 5-year-old today was born in 2018. A 14-year-old today was born in 2009. So we are referring to historical gaps, not gaps that have come up in recent times. And as you know, because there have been more recent efforts to increase vaccination coverage, we think that these efforts have achieved the desired outcome because fewer children less than 5 are actually affected by this outbreak.
Indeed.
Back to you.
And, you know, they say figures or numbers don't lie. But this is more than just numbers. These are the lives of people. If we're coming from 2011, when we had 98 cases, 21 deaths, to now when we've had over 500 deaths, even more devastating to hear that children, you know, are mostly affected. So can you maybe tell us, what's the government's response like? And I hope that we can try to benchmark this against COVID-19, for example. We seem to have built a lot of, capacity during COVID-19. But the sense out there, and I've seen a lot of reports, is that Nigeria may just be struggling this time around with diphtheria.
I think it's important to not compare apples, with oranges. There are two different disease conditions, and unfortunately, yes, they both have devastating impacts on population. Diphtheria is it's a vaccine-preventable condition that we should not really be talking about if people were vaccinated. The vaccines were available. There may have been challenges historically for various reasons that you know just as well as I am, challenges with vaccine hesitancy. There were security challenges as well. And then COVID struck and sabotaged or put off all of the efforts that were, or arrangements that were planned to catch up with children and others who are poorly vaccinated, and the campaigns that were necessary. So this, basically tipped us over the top to a point where the susceptible population accumulated, and therefore we have this outbreak. We need vaccination, but unfortunately, vaccination now does not immediately address or put away a problem that has happened, or a situation that has accumulated over time. But we have responded, supporting states with provision of diagnostics,
right.
Also leveraging on some of the investments that were made during the COVID pandemic, although diphtheria is a different condition, and because it's re-emerging, there's very little experience with diagnosis of diphtheria. So we've had to set up laboratories, help set up laboratories to diagnose diphtheria. And at the moment, we started off as a preparedness effort with 6 laboratories, which we have now grown to 19, most of which are in the most affected areas for diagnosis. Diphtheria can be treated with a simple antibiotic, which is erythromycin. Oral erythromycin is relatively cheap and available. The challenge is when people are ill and then require what we call injectable forms,
right?
Because they can't swallow or not, then you need injectable erythromycin, which ordinarily is not available in the country. But again, the government, working with partners and using its own resources as well, has then purchased or procured doses of injectable erythromycin, which we continue to preposition and provide to our partners in states for treatment.
Well,
final bit is that we need diphtheria antitoxin, and of course, government working with partners with its resources and other resources mobilized has also been able to procure diphtheria antitoxin for specific treatment of diphtheria. Unfortunately, the global capacity for manufacturing diphtheria antitoxin is quite limited. And we are now having to struggle to lay our hands on enough doses.
Clearly, that's a huge work on our hands,
yes.
Dr. Adetifa. And I wonder where we're at on the way to WHO's 80% vaccine coverage. But let's wind down on this one, because I know everything primary is quite vital in curbing further spread of this outbreak, and I'm talking the primary healthcare centers, even primary caregivers. So by way of maybe giving people tools which they can use from the northern part of the country to other areas that might be affected, what would you want primary caregivers to know, particularly in preventing and managing this disease?
Well, it's important that primary caregivers encourage members or people in their community and the clients that they serve to make use of every opportunity that has been provided to vaccinate infants, okay, to prevent the future cases. The Nigerian immunization schedule provides for immunization with a diphtheria-containing vaccine at 6, 10, and 14 weeks of life. But in the context of the outbreak, it's also important that we convince members of the community that we serve to come out and benefit from the vaccines that are being delivered by campaign. The second bit is the outcomes in diphtheria are related to early diagnosis and early institution of treatment. So when it's important that we educate the communities we serve, and of course, our primary healthcare workers should have a high index of suspicion that when they see people with fever, with a cough, with swollen glands in their neck and under their jaw, and they have a membrane or a patch at the back of their throats, they should immediately seek to make diagnosis and refer to appropriate treatment centers for treatment to be started early. And then on the final point is primary healthcare workers have a role to share the right information about this disease and to also help the fight against the wrong information that is also going around and affecting people's health-seeking behavior.
And that's a very vital point. But I'd like to thank you so much, Dr. Fedayo Adetifa, the Director General of Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Thank you for your time on the News at 10.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for all you do.
Well, let's talk security now. The United States has alerted its citizens in Nigeria of threats to major hotels in the largest cities of the country. This warning is contained in an emergency information in its embassy's website for American citizens, adding that the Nigerian security agencies are working to counter the threat. It also advised U.S. citizens to exercise vigilance at major hotels, be alert of their surroundings, keep a low profile, and review the travel advisory for Nigeria before checking into any hotel. The advisory urged U.S. citizens in the country to reach out to its embassy in Abuja and the consulate in Lagos should they require help. This comes a month after the U.S. advised all its citizens worldwide to exercise restraint when traveling to various locations around the world. The Taraba State government has banned night journeys on its waterways and also threatened to deal with operators without life jackets, those overloading passengers, and those without manifest. This follows a visit to the scene of a boat mishap that claimed the lives of over 20 passengers in Karim Lamido local government area of the state. The government is promising to unravel the root causes of the boat mishap and punish culprits accordingly.
It's been a week since the boat mishap that claimed the lives of over 20 passengers in Bineri community of Karim Lamido local government area of Taraba State. But the bodies of the victims continue to surface on the water. Investigations indicate that the vessel was overloaded with bags of cement, building irons, food items, animals, and over 100 passengers, including children. The boat capsized after hitting a wooden barricade made to trap fish. The boat operator and a passenger who survived the mishap tell their story.
I lost my sister and baby to the incident. No fewer than 40 persons lost their lives. We got stuck on the water 2 hours after takeoff due to some barricades made by fishermen. I tried all I could to maneuver, but I did not succeed, which led to the ugly incident. About 50 to 60 passengers got drowned, while some managed to swim out.
A state government delegation led by the Deputy Governor, Aminu Al-Khali, arrives at the Bineri community to assess the situation, as well as express his condolences to the people over the unfortunate incident. He then gives a directive to the boat operators.
Stop overloading the canoes. 2, to ensure that there will be no night traveling. And the canoes, before they leave, they must have manifest of all the passengers inside, so that whatever happens, we know who and who are inside that canoe. And thirdly, they should liaise with the newer to ensure that they have the life jackets, to ensure that anyone using any canoe should have at least one.
Residents of the area say this is not the first occurrence, it's the first time the state government is visiting, giving a 7-day ultimatum to fishermen in the area to remove all the barricades on its waterways to avert further loss of life.
More stories now. Recently, Gombe State was conferred with the award of the most digitally compliant state in the country by the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITA. And the Gombe State government has been speaking on the feet, with officials explaining how the administration of Governor Ino Ayaya is integrating technology into various aspects of state governance structure.
Gombe State has a project population of 3.97 million people, with a civil service strength of an estimated 150,000 workers in both state and local governments. The state government deployed technology to fish out ghost workers and truancy in the state's workforce.
This register biometric is a migration from the old method of manual attendance register in our respective MDS. He has brought in the biometric attendance register so that civil servants can thumbprint and to make them regular in their place of service. This will checkmate those that are not really working or those collecting salaries that are not living in Gombe State.
The state government also leveraged technology to enforce Treasury single account in the state's internal revenue generation and ensure transparency in the state's accounting system.
When you say economic development, it encompasses a lot of collaboration with other sister ministries and agencies of government. For example, if you look at youth development, there is an economic development part of that is empowering the youths. So in collaboration with sister ministries and agencies that are involved with the youths, we try to find and formulate ways that we can be able to ensure that our youths are gainfully employed, provided with skills, and also provided with the required, seed funding to begin, their own businesses.
The state government also set up the Gombe Geographic Information System to manage land administration.
Let's say you have a plot of land and you want to process it here in Gorges. Your point of call is the customer service center. When you enter customer service center, they will provide you with a seat. We have a lot of seats in the customer service center. You will sit, they will give you a number, and you wait. The computer will call you and tell you the number, the officer that will attend to you. So from there, you'll see the technology have started working.
Beyond the award by the National Information Technology Development Agency as the most digitally compliant state, Gombe State government is hoping to do more to make the business environment friendly for investors.
The Kano state government says it has introduced measures to tackle the menace of out-of-school children and the Almajiri system. Now, one of such measures, according to the Commissioner for Human Services and Social Development in the state, Rabi Salisu, is the enrollment of 10,000 Almajiri children into formal basic education in 7 local government areas by January. The Commissioner explains that providing free education and other incentives for these vulnerable children is aimed at making education attractive and acceptable for the children and their parents.
The Almajiri phenomenon has been in existence for many decades. It's an Islamic education system that is predominant in northern Nigeria. The term Almajiri ordinarily refers to someone who migrates from his home in search of Islamic education. However, this original idea appears to have been bastardized, as some of these children now go about on the streets with bowls begging for alms. This development has sparked several reactions from successive governments, and the incumbent government is alarmed by the rising numbers of out-of-school children.
In the whole world, Nigeria have the highest number of out-of-school children. In the whole world, we have 17 million as of today. And Kaduna State have about 680,000 out-of-school children as we are speaking. And the only way we can be able to address the issue of sustainable development goal is to be able to make sure that every child go to school.
The Kaduna State government, with support from the UNICEF, is taking drastic steps to address this challenge.
We want these children, at least 10,000 out-of-school children, to be enrolled between now and January. And these children, they are going to come out from the Zangaya system of education, who we call Almajiri. And we have the hawkers, those that hawk without going to school. And we also have those that are roaming around the street. Those are the real ones that we are targeting.
The greatest challenge we have in this state is the reality of children as young as 2. I have seen children 2-3 years here that are roaming the streets. We also understand the great work Hamas are doing in bringing them together. And I think there is need for us now to take an action.
This latest intervention targets the enrollment of at least 10,000 Almajiri children in formal education. The program is managed by the Kaduna State Ministry of Human Services and Social Development.
Our aims and objectives to enhance the value and status of Zangaya institution by introducing Western education and skill acquisition to fit into the changing time and to ensure control in the influx.
According to UNICEF, there are an estimated 104,000 Almajiri children and 105,000 out-of-school adolescent girls in Kaduna State alone. The government is hoping to cut down on this figure with this latest intervention, which seeks to take more out-of-school children from the streets.
Now, against the backdrop of criticisms trailing the running of the National Social Register and the conditional cash transfer program, the federal government has given assurances of transparency and accountability in the scheme. This, it says, is to regain the confidence of the people as it plans to pull out 50 million Nigerians out of poverty. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu, made the promise during a tour of communities affected by flood in Ogun and Lagos State. Our correspondent, Kelly Agiga, reports.
The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu, is meeting with residents of Isheri, a community which borders Ogun and Lagos states. Her visit follows the recent devastating impact of flooding in the Axis, which she says has affected more than 33,000 residents. The minister distributes relief materials to residents affected by the flood, while also assuring them of government's continued support.
We have gone to about 2 locations where people are being held in camps or shelters as a result of the flooding. What we want to quickly support them to do is to provide livelihood for them. Those who lost their businesses as a result of the flood, especially the petty traders and those with the micro and small businesses, would immediately be supported through the Ogun State government and the Lagos State government to reach out to them.
Done with this phase of the distribution, the humanitarian minister continues her tour of the affected areas, making a stop at Agboye Ketu LCDA, another community ravaged by flood, to the delight of residents of the area. Earlier, the minister had paid a courtesy visit of the Ogun State Governor, Dakwa Abiodun, where she also promised more programs for women development and palliatives for victims of flood disasters in the Isheri areas of Ogun and Lagos states.
A lot of work has gone into thorough verification. We want to ensure that people who are paid have their name. So we're working with MC on it. We want to ensure that they have the BVN and that they are traceable through in-person verification.
On his part, the governor highlights some of the plans of the government towards holistically addressing the flooding in the area.
We will be investing in the infrastructure correction and elevating the arterial roads in those places. Next time it rains, they won't have to be coming out of their houses in Kanos anymore.
The visit by the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu, is the latest following earlier visits by officials from both states and the Minister for Water Resources. Residents facing these humanitarian crises occasioned by the flood will be hoping that, beyond these visits, there will be expedited action to forestall a recurrence of the perennial flood crisis in the area.
Well, business news is next on the News at 10 with Ladi Williams.
Thanks, Kayode. In business news, Aguso & Co. has assigned A rating to Odua Investment Company Limited, an investment and asset management firm owned by 6 governments of the western states of Nigeria. The rating agency reports that its assessment was based on the diversified portfolio of investments across key sectors which the company has undertaken. In an interview with Channels Television, the group chairman, Otumba Bimbo Ashiru, says the diversification and collaboration is a way to survive the current economic headwinds. Take a listen.
What has happened in the last 3 years, Odua has actually diversified their assets and form of income. And I'll give you a good example. We used to have the real estate business in Odua itself, in the group, and we have Wema Board. And we now realize that, look, how can we have 2 entities doing the same thing? And we decided to have a lean holdco, whereby we now moved all our real asset business from Odua to Wema Board, so that we can have this thing is now concentrated on Wema Board, and then it has helped because they now have they have their targets, the income is there, and everything. So that is clear. Most companies, they get it. I mean, they don't look at that. You have to diversify your portfolio investments across different key sectors of the economy. Nigerian economy, for example. So if you are doing something and you know that you are funding your thing yourself and you don't have enough funds, there is need for you to diversify. There is need for you to get involved in joint ventures, invite other investors. We need to look at, you need to sit down and plan your strategy. Because you want to look at, do I still want to be the sole owner 100% of nothing? I say, let me bring investors that are going to bring in funds. We have joint ventures so that they can support the business. The business will grow astronomically, but it will grow. But the problem is, it's not even a problem. You may not have as big, as much as you want to be the real owner of the business.
Anti-regulation now, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission has registered and approved more digital moneylenders, otherwise known as loan apps, bringing the list of approved companies to 211 at the end of October. The 211 companies comprise of 172 that have received full approval from the Commission and 39 others with conditional approval. As of September this year, the total number of companies that had been fully approved stood at 161, while those with conditional approvals were 40. The increase indicates that new companies are coming up to secure FCCPC's approval for the digital lending business amid a battered image of the business over incidences of harassment and defamation of borrowers by some of the lenders. And to the markets now, the month of November is kicking off bullish for the local equities market as the NGX closed the week in positive territory. As the all-share index increased by 4.56% to close at 70,196 points. Investors bought Airtel Africa, banking and insurance stocks in the trading week ended Friday, November 3rd. The market recorded the total turnover of 2.4 billion shares worth 40 billion naira in 37,959 deals. To sector performance now, NGX Banking Index rose by 2.67%, insurance 7.96%, while industrial goods added 0.73%, and you see consumer goods also in a gaining period of 0.47%, while NGX oil and gas remained unchanged in the week under review. Mutual Benefits Assurance PLC led C3 gainers for the week, while RT Briscoe PLC led 29 decliners, trading in the top three equities, namely Japol Gold and Venture PLC, United Bank for Africa PLC, and Fidelity Bank, measured by volume, accounted for 835 million shares, worth 8.6 billion naira. And that's it on business news. Back to Kaide with the rest of the news at 10.
Well, thank you, Ladi. Let's now head over to our Abuja studio where Victoria Longjan is standing by with sports news.
Thank you, Kayode. Welcome to Sports News. The Nigeria National League has confirmed that the 2023-2024 season will begin on November 11. A new football club based in Surulere called 1472 FC has been unveiled to begin campaign with a target to gain promotion to the elite division of the Nigeria Football League system next season. The chief executive officer of the club, Shegun Sani, said the model was carefully adopted to take the team to the people of Surulere.
We also have a female team. The men's team has a feeder team, and the female team has been is being put together as well. And it doesn't stop here. Part of the football projects that he has envisioned is to develop talent of talented young ones, starting from Surulere. And I can proudly say that Coach Ortega here has several members of his team are Surulereans, and they were not selected by accident. They earned their place in that team.
And in the English Premier League, defending champions Manchester City have swept to the top of the table as Jeremy Doku's dazzling display inspired a 6-1 win against AFC Bournemouth. Newcastle United ended Arsenal's unbeaten start as the VAR controversially allowed Anthony Gordon's goal to stand in the Magpies' explosive 1-0 victory. Bruno Fernandes scored a stoppage-time winner against Fulham to alleviate the pressure on Manchester United boss Eric Ten Hag. Oliver Norwood fired home a stoppage-time penalty to give Sheffield United their first win of the season. Nathan Collins scored his first Brentford goal to seal victory in a highly entertaining encounter against West Ham. And Chelsea's women's manager Emma Hayes has decided to leave at the end of the season, bringing the curtain down on her trophy-laden spell in charge of the Blues. Hayes is one of the most successful managers in women's football after masterminding Chelsea's 6 women's Super League titles. The 47-year-old has also won 5 FA Cups, 2 League Cups, the Spring Seasons Trophy and the Community Shield with Chelsea's women. Hayes has been linked to the vacant United States women's national team role. And the German Football Association has sacked women's national coach Martina Voss-Tecklenburg almost 3 months after the team's disappointing group stage World Cup exit. The 2-time winners were eliminated at the group stage for the first time at the 2023 World Cup after winning just 1 of the 3 matches. Voss-Tecklenburg has been on sick leave since Germany returned from Australia. In Voss-Tecklenburg's absence, Germany has been led by interim coach Horst Hilbert. And that's it on Sports News. I'm Victoria Longjan. It's back to you, Kayode.
Well, Well, thank you, Victoria. The road to a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war appears rough. And that's because while Arab countries are demanding an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the U.S. is warning that this would allow Hamas to regroup. Well, that's the outcome of the U.S. envoy Antony Blinken's meeting with leaders from Lebanon, Qatar and Jordan in Amman as he pushes for humanitarian pauses in the fighting. He has also met with the head of the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East. Mr. Blinken expressed sadness at the loss of the UN agency's members and praised those risking life and limb to take care of people. He was at the site with Commissioner General of the UN's agency, Philip Lazarani. And the main news again. 7 days to the off-cycle governorship elections in the country, residents of Ahaji Egbema today drummed support for Governor Hope Uzodinma as AA and ADC candidates Olayinka Braimo and Leke Abejide continued their tour of communities in Kogi State. And Governor Similayo Fubara has apologized to the people of River State for what he calls regrettable anxiety in the aftermath of the political crisis that rocked the state this week. Well, that's the news at 10 for tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikielu. Good night.